coded at the daycare center. And a call went out to a child drowning.
He still had a heartbeat, but he did not have a pulse. He was basically clinically dead.
And I could hear from what Gary and his partner were radioing back to dispatch that it was indeed a CPR in progress, which means Juan again had stopped breathing, his heart had stopped beating.
So on that particular day, we pulled the tube and inserted another tube, but by that time he was basically clinically dead. He still had a heartbeat, but he did not have a pulse. And you know, we rushed him to the Army Medical Center at Eisenhower.
I knew that the closest hospital was Eisenhower, and they were going to take him over there, so I headed over to Eisenhower with my unit. And when I got there,
There are really no words when I think of my child dying once, you know, but then having him die twice, you know, my heart is just really just with those people, because they felt my love, they felt my fight. We came home. Juan was in a very, very quiet state where he didn't say anything. He barely moved. So what I did was I would constantly talk to him, read to him, pray with him, sing to him, tell him his ABCs, his body parts. So I realized that I couldn't do that 24/7, but I wanted him to have that 24/7. So I recorded those things on cassette tape, and I just let them just roll and play, either out in the room or by headset. And I had one tape where I would tell him constantly that he could talk. You can talk, Juan, you can talk. And probably about a month after playing that tape, I remember hearing this this noise. You know, I'm like, what is that noise? And as I get down the hall, get closer to his room, it was him. He learned to make noises.
Yes, Mommy's gonna try to fix that. Yes, I am. Maybe the doctor can get the technician to do something. Build it. So it will hold your head up straight. Hold your head just like that, like it's supposed to hold your head. Yep. Okay? Okay.
Richard Ingram is an attorney in Augusta, Georgia, and I just happened, when Juan's accident happened, and I found out that there was no insurance, and I really didn't know what to do and who to talk to, so I called, just opened the phone book and to the Yellow Pages, and it happened to be at the firm where Richard worked. I didn't know Richard, I didn't know anybody that knew Richard, but when I called, he came over.
I had handled daycare litigation in the past, and drove over to the hospital and met with her and talked with her in the lobby, and after about 30 minutes she decided, based on what I had told her and my experience, that she wanted me to help her with her son.
He knew that there was not going to be any monetary payment, because we didn't have anything at that point, because I'd spent everything in my son's medical care, and but he decided to take the case pro bono. What I told her was almost like a godsend. I'm not trying to make myself look good by saying this, but I had helped someone in the past with a problem, with a daycare claim, and it touched her heart, and I felt like God had given me that case to suit me up for this case. And he saw my love for my son. His heart went out to my son, our situation, and he worked tediously on helping me as far as getting the legal part of this ordeal right.
And by filing suit, we learned that the party was uninsured. We learned that their home itself was several months behind on their mortgage. We learned that the lien holder on the home had bought structure coverage only to protect their asset. But of course they knew nothing about the daycare. They were merely the holders of the loan papers on the home. But the couple was even that far behind financially themselves. So they were not only passive in not buying coverage for the daycare, they were passive in not paying their mortgage, and they were passive in not having, by virtue of not paying the note, no insurance on the home. We actually didn't have to prove that negligence occurred, although the investigative report clearly showed from the police department what had transpired, and that was the owner and or her husband left Juan alone that Sunday morning.
All of this stuff is tangled. Now I want also to always be aware of your wirings. You know, this is wrapped all in this, and that could get you in trouble. Okay? When you're trying to move him or whatever, you know, say there was a fire. You know, all this stuff needs to be able to move freely. If not, then, you know, you got to be prepared for that. Okay? Dad?
Juan's medical bills are being paid for by the state of Georgia, by Medicaid, state-funded Medicaid, where he gets nursing coverage, and it takes care of his medications, his therapies. So that's basically
my bill, which is to recommend, the state now recommends anyone who opens up a daycare center that they get insurance. And if they should choose not to get insurance, they have to advise the consumers, they have to advise the parents, look, we are an uninsured daycare. And Senator Cheek's provision was they had to post it, say we do not provide insurance, and they have to make certain that that's posted in a conspicuous place. So it was the merging of two bills, which actually makes for a great bill. In the long run, I think it perhaps was meant to happen that way because it is a good bill.
So we introduced what is called Juan's Law in memory of her child. We finally were able to get the legislation through after some delay. But hopefully this legislation will allow for families in the future to find a way to recover damages based on the injuries to their children. We simply did not know that these daycare facilities were not required to have liability insurance. So this was a wake-up call for Georgia. It was a wake-up call for families, for parents. It was a wake-up call for legislators.
All of it has to do with faith. Jackie, Juan's mother, is a very strong woman who made an early decision.
I think of my faith and I think of the scripture, and which goes back, says those that trust in the Lord and wait on Him, as we are trusting and waiting, they will not get tired. You know, they'll mount up wings as eagles, and they'll walk and not get weary, and you know, and run and not feel faint. So I think that's what's going on with me. I've gotten that strength that God talks about in the Bible.
It had to be that reliance on her faith and that intervention by a higher power that brought us all together as we were. Had to be, and I'm convinced of that. Being a spiritual person myself, I'm so convinced of that. You know, all the pieces had to be placed in the right order at the right time at the right place for us to have this.
State Representative, who's now deceased, was State Representative Henry Howard, said something to me where the governor signed the bill into law. He said to me, he said, "Young lady, you changed history in Georgia." So 10 years from now, you know, when Juan's up and running around, you know, he'll know that Georgia is safer because of an ordeal that he took like a little man.